Today, my guest is Nathan Howey, the executive chef of Michelin-recommended Fortu here in downtown St. Pete. He most recently was the winner of the Chef Throwdown here in Tampa Bay, and he is going to share with us the ups and downs of the journey from the guide to the star. Let's get sauced and uncensored. Chef, thank you so much for coming to hang out and making lamb, because what better way to start this new series that we're doing than with my favorite protein going on here. So what have we already started doing?
Yeah, so we caramelized a little bit of squash, and we've got that going with some coconut milk and a little bit of curry. And then we broke down what looks to be a good portion of chops for you, 4 bones. Looks really good, clean. And we're gonna get that searing here in a minute. And we'll blend up the puree, and then we'll work on some mushrooms after.
Well, special thank you to Local Foods for hooking us up with this amazing rack of lamb. So super excited that they're supporting the show, and we get to show off all of their just amazing things as well. And what do you think of our fancy little setup here? We've got this banging just outdoor setup courtesy of our buddies at the Appliance Club, which is where this whole set is. So super excited for that.
Yeah, it's a great shop. Everything looks good. Everything works really, really great. It's awesome.
Nice. Rob, this was an exciting new venture that we're going into, but you guys have some just exciting stuff, getting your Michelin recommendation last year. So what, I think it's, and we've chatted about it before, you know, there's kind of not, see the pros and the cons to it, to where, cool, now it's there. We've got that recommendation. Now is it like, okay, we want to pursue the star, or like, all right, we just kind of got to figure stuff out?
So for us, the important part is the community, you know, and how does the community respond to our business? And that's first and foremost the most important thing for us. We don't want to lose sight of what's made us special and what's really brought people in and day out. If we can achieve a Michelin star through that process, that's great. But if we don't, then we're happy where we are. You know, the recommendation was huge for us, especially the first year in the market. But what's most important for us is our community and our people. So as we're growing, we're introducing some new elements to the cuisine. We're really going to refine and focus mostly on Japanese and French techniques and flavors. But, you know, that's only part of the process.
One thing that you had said to me months ago, and I had to write it down because I thought it was just so relevant to not just your business, but so many different culinary institutions we have around town, is like, we have to meeting our customers where they are culinarily, where I think I'll go places, other people go places. We all have our unique tastes, and whatever that expectations are when, you know, we're going out to eat someplace. But it's a challenging component, I would imagine. I mean, managing expectations and combining that with price. Like, look, we can make this ridiculous.
Sure.
But now this is it's an unattainable price point because you don't want to spend $100 whatever dollars.
Yeah, we can load every dish with uni and foie gras and caviar, but you know, does that make sense? Does that make sense for everyone's budget? Does that make sense for the everyday budget? You know, and that's the important part. We don't just want to be a special occasion entity. We want to be somewhere that folks can be happy, you know, dining week in and week out, and like I said, being a part of the community, not just a special place.
And look, when you guys launched brunch, I thought it was, one, fantastic, but very interesting the way that you were describing what the ingredients were you guys were using, where it was some of it's byproduct from stuff throughout the week, or stuff obviously that we already have. We don't necessarily have to make a menu that's now requiring us to order all this stuff that we wouldn't typically use, because I've gone to other brunches and there was like, oh, we can't keep this up because it's not sustainable. I was like, well, you have to, why wouldn't you think about using what's already there? Just the business side of it. I think it's so, people say to me, like, when are you going to open a restaurant? I was like, what makes you think it's qualifications to open?
Yeah, you know, everyone's got a grandmother's famous recipe and special ingredients and special dishes, but do you have 25 of them? You know, and then once, you know, your average menu is, you know, 20, 25 items, and then you add brunch, and that's another 15, 16 items, and they all need to be good, and they need to be special. So it's a tough part. Brunch has been a great addition for us. Our area of St. Pete, there's a huge brunch community, and it's very busy. So it's been great. But we're also going to work on elevating that, really adding the influence of French really alludes to better brunch. And you think about when you think about Japanese breakfast, fish and sushi rice doesn't always go great at 10:30 in the morning. So we can really have a lot more fun and do some more interesting brunch food as we really add that French influence to the cuisine.
So when you guys, you're working your ass off all the time.
Something like that.
The number of covers that's going on, I know that you, as many chefs are, many restaurateurs are, you guys are just in a pressure cooker of, this is my world. So when it comes to the inspiration for those types of things, to where, all right, we're creating new menu items, we're thinking of new stuff, is there time that you're having to very intentionally set aside for that kind of thing? Where does that inspiration component, where does the time come for that?
Time's relative. Everybody's really busy, and in the environment, again, folks, they think about the hospitality end of the restaurant because that's what they know, but the business end is dozens of hours every week, doing paper. Only dozens of hours. Doing paperwork and schedules and all the things that nobody thinks about when you've got 45 employees or 46 employees. There's a lot of time and energy focused on that. So it's really being organized and setting meetings. We sit down, we're closed on Mondays. So typically, even if it's via a Skype or a phone call, we sit down and we have a couple hours of meetings, Monday morning to make sure that we're organized for the week and getting set up. And then it's wherever, you kind of get in where you fit in, really, but finding time and every day to taste something, to touch something, to look at it and say, that would be good for this entity of brunch, or this is what we're going to do for this special menu. And on most recently Valentine's Day or something like that. It's making time by being organized. It's the most important thing. Mise en place is, I think, one of the most overused terms. But it's crucial. And most
preparation side, yeah, exactly. The preparation component to everything that's happening. Just one thing that I have my daughter write. So she's 7. And I write a little line of stuff for her, and she just, whether it's affirmations, but she'll write slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And I'm so now if I just say slow is, she's got it. And she's like, I got it, Dad.
That's awesome.
But that's when she's doing homework and she's, it's the preparation side of it, to be able to slow down and be like, okay, cool. We slowed down to get everything done initially. So the rest of one service is easier, but we know that we're going to be able to get through what we have to get through. And if we're out of something or we have to go prep more or something until you get, I've been at restaurants where I'm sure you've been in the kitchens of places too. You show up and you're just like, what the hell are you guys doing back here? How does this even work? Just, whatever their methods to the madness is, but again, getting back to the inspiration of stuff to being that French aspect of what you guys are integrating at this point, is it new or is it kind of always sort of been there and I've not really recognized it?
It's always been there in a sense because the backbone of almost all elevated cuisine is inherently French. And it makes things easier as it's more approachable. It's simpler food, and that's really what we want to focus on. We've gone through a lot of techniques and a lot of interesting dishes and things over the first couple of years of being open, but what we really want to focus on is what is simplicity, and that's what people understand is simple ingredients just cooked properly, and that's our goal over the next maybe 3 or 4 weeks as we get into the spring and through the summer. Menu adjustments and changes is how do we just make everything delicious and simple and fun, and just to ensure that everybody is happy and understands what we're doing.
Which is another, I think going through and having that focus of fun, unique. I think so many of the dishes that I've experienced, there are things that both Joe behind the camera and I, once at with people, are like, you need to go and like, this is specifically what you need to get, because they make that lasting impact. And I think that's so more often than I would think is lost in places where like, what's going to be memorable about this? Not only does it have to be good, how are you going to go and be like, oh man, that Fruto that I keep forgetting the name of, that's at Isu, that's upstairs.
Yeah.
You have to get this thing.
Yeah, the ahi amarillo sauce.
Freaking amazing. The way that you, I think, naturally are approaching all of this stuff is exciting. And I think in St. Pete, are we on pace with what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, well, we got caught up in a little bit of conversation. Why don't you pass me that blender over there, and we'll start working on the sauce a little bit.
Don't work. So, shout out to Mike here at the Appliance Plug for having a blender, because we didn't think about it.
Yeah, he took care of that for me, saved me. Talking about preparation, I rolled in unprepared, right? So I'm just gonna take the blender base here and take that sauce that kind of caramelized and work together. Really nice, real aromatic.
I wish you can smell this through the camera, because it is already like, I just want to have this as soup.
Yeah, and we talked about simplicity, right? You can add garlic and onions and all sorts of different stuff, but the curry is really going to have a ton of flavor to it. And
so this right now is just butter, curry, and the squash.
That's it. Super simple, right?
I could do this at home.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyone can do this stuff. Shit, you can never get it wrong.
Oh, boy.
Good.
Important to stay clean.
Something that you also did. Man, and so you were saying around what's going on in our community, pause for
simple and easy. And
butternut squash lassi.
Little tip, if you noticed, I increased the speed on the blender, especially if you're working with a normal blender, even if it has a sealed top. When you're blending something that's hot, you're going to create a lot of pressure inside of that. And in the kitchen, we've seen a lot of accidents happen where you just hit high and it blows the top right off the blender, and now you've got hot sauce flying at 1,000 miles an hour.
Oh, very true. Hopefully that's a takeaway on today's episode.
Hear that pressure release and the steam.
I don't have one that has settings. It is like we're either on or we're not. But I have done stuff with hot things and I can feel the pressure. But fortunately, it hasn't exploded.
Yeah. Years have gone by, but in the past I've seen half a gallon of white bean puree hit the ceiling at 20 feet. So it's always interesting how things can happen.
And in your current tiny kitchen, low kitchen, or your low ceilings, I can imagine.
Yeah,
at least I could even reach the ceiling and probably clean up.
I'm 6'5", and I think we have about a 6'6" clearance. I barely make it. So we've already kind of pre-warmed the pan. We got a nice hot pan here. We're gonna hit a little more butter so we can sear our chops.
Very nice. Love it. I noticed when we were prepping with our Kerry Gold butter, which is also the only butter my daughter is in the approval process of at this point. She's like, Daddy, I don't like whatever you gave me. It's like, that was on sale. That's what the deal is.
Yeah, especially at home, that gets tough, right? Prices and things, the world's not cheap anymore, and things like butter, dairy are expensive. It is a lot better, and it's something that's very important, when we're talking about quality of ingredients. When you're cooking simply, and you're just cooking light ingredients, the most important thing is the quality of those ingredients. So we're just gonna settle those chops in, make sure they get a nice sear evenly all the way across. But these are pre-French, and normally when they're pre-French, they kind of go halfway up the bone. If you like to, you can cut more of that back fat off, but
all of it on there.
I think most people enjoy that quite a bit, so we like to leave that on there.
Absolutely. The best part, I always feel awkward I'm like, we're in a nice place. Is it appropriate for me to just gnaw on this bone?
So 3-finger rule, right? If you can pick it up and pinch it with 3 fingers, it's perfectly acceptable to eat it off the bone, right? If you've got to grab a whole tomahawk or something big and you got to go in on it, then it's probably not something you want to be walking around the dining room with.
No blanco ribs or tomahawk.
Yeah.
I could do these guys.
It certainly depends on which dining room you're in as well, I suppose, you know.
Yeah. Lamb is so good. Lammy. So for me, if I can just do lamb and duck, I would just be so satisfied.
2 of my favorite proteins, you know, they go really well. They go really well with a lot of things. The gaminess also alludes to, you know, being paired with a lot of spice, which, you know, people like. So you can get a lot of interesting flavors to go along with it. So if you're looking for a nice caramelization on these.
Good. So as you guys are menu development side of things, and I want to go back to that, really quoting you around like meeting our customers where they are culinarily, where I know when you guys were starting Fortu, there's all kinds of different ideas. Everything was delicious, but it was like understanding like, okay, well, this is something that maybe not the right price point or too many of this or that, where it seems like a tricky understanding when you're trying to have a little bit more of a more refined place like you guys have. How long does that take to go and get to, all right, cool, you kind of figured it out? Because, well, again, as a business, you don't.
I think, you know, I mean, we're 2 years in and I think we're still figuring it out. You know, our original menu was very protein heavy. We had a lot of steak options, and, you know, we had a large 32-ounce tomahawk ribeye that was dry aged, and it was, you know, roughly $250 to $300 per order. And it wasn't that it wasn't well received. Everyone enjoyed it. However, the expense of it. And then, as you alluded to, our really small kitchen being in a historic building, it's hard to find places to put. You know, as you're dry aging, you've got to have, you know, maybe 8, 9, 10 whole ribeye sections available, and that's only 6 orders per piece. So we're missing a lot of space.
But I remember the early stage, and look, I mean, to the point of how delicious can things be, and of course people didn't see something like, oh my god, I do that all the time, but then it's like, oh wow, again, I don't need this giant tomahawk going out on a Monday night, kind of the, you know, what are those vibes going to be like, you know, meeting them. But I think that when we had that conversation, I think it was even in the context a little bit of how, not refined, that's not really the right terminology at the clip, how, I don't know if it's simple or complicated, but the layers of flavors and the types of flavors that are getting used. I've had a conversation recently with one of our mixology friends. He said that he's just very intricate and things that they're fermenting and the other stuff that they're doing, placing really unique cocktails, where it goes, I think, the same way in the fun patch, where is the community ready for this, whatever level of creativity for the botanist? Like, is there something you find that like, oh, this would be amazing, but I don't know if we're ready for that yet? Like, well,
and it alludes to, you know, your volume, your size. Are you feeding 200 to 300 people a night, or are you feeding 20, right? Because if you're feeding 10, 12, 15, 20 people a night, you can go crazy, because there's that select group of people that are looking for that, you know, Thursday through Sunday. But if you're 7 days a week and you're doing lunch and dinner, you know, at the end of the day, chicken Parmesan sells at every Italian restaurant because it's delicious and people understand it and they know it and it makes them happy, right? And that's the important part of hospitality when you're looking at it in full circle is making sure people are enjoying their time. And if the majority of people or a certain percentage of people are enjoying chicken Parmesan, then it makes sense to have that, you know, in that setting. So, you know, for us, we were sort of a niche restaurant and sort of an individual space when we came to St. Pete. And it was finding our identity, but finding that identity within the community to ensure that we had those items that made people happy every day and they could really enjoy day in and day out and pursue that opportunity.
You got to imagine it's just such a I don't say frustrating, but you run into the obstacles where, and you guys have an excellent cocktail program as well, where there's different levels of creativity. But then I've heard other people be like, yeah, I've seen them have the conversation like, yeah, that's probably a little bit too much. You're probably just going to start selling a bunch of espresso martinis. It's like, it doesn't feel like necessarily a cop-out's not the right word, but it's, setting away from like, all right, what are our values and what do we want to bring, instead of just, I don't want to say settling for chicken parmesan, but like settling for the easy, yeah, of course we're going to sell this, because then it's like, I think it's easier to slip into just making stuff for that concept of making money, where the identity gets lost and sort of given to the highest tickets people, not highest ticket, but the most.
Yeah, well, it's how do you make it slightly unique or elevated or different, right? And the espresso martini is a great example, because it's hot. It's what people want to drink right now. It's, as much as old fashions were the last 10 years, espresso martinis are everywhere and everybody wants one.
Look, I showed a video of an espresso martini tree. It's going bonkers.
Yeah.
And it's just the stand. It doesn't even say have to be good, apparently. You're like, look how beautiful the stand is. And everybody's sharing it. I have to go try it.
I've always been a bourbon guy, and I've never really been a martini person, but they're good. As much as it's when I one of our small concepts, Top Slice Pizza, when I came on board and I started working on that menu, I was like, man, barbecue chicken pizza's got to go. And then I think we might have made it half a night without it on our offerings, and we were having a riot downtown over barbecue chicken pizza. And then I took my time to make one right with our new sauces and better quality chicken and the things that we instilled in that brand. And I ate it and I was like, man, I hate the fact that I like this. It's like, as a chef, everyone wants to hate on ranch dressing and ketchup and barbecue chicken pizza, but if it's done right, it's good, and people enjoy it, and that's what makes them happy.
I do think it's one of those price point obstacles that you kind of run into at some point. Like, because to make it good sometimes, all right, the barbecue chicken pizza might have gone from $12 to $15 or $16, $17 now. Like, all right, why is it so much more expensive? It's like, well, we wanted to make it good. We could have just gone and gotten whatever I buy it. What's the barbecue sauce? Whatever. Extra barbecue sauce from Pulp.
Insert Baby Ray's here.
Yeah. Well, I've been places where like they made their own ketchup, and it's like you don't even think about how much different that's going to taste till you taste it. And you're just like, God.
Yeah, you pull out high fructose corn syrup and a bunch of additives, and things can be really good, And but that's where you also have to find that balance of knowing where your place in the community is, and identifying that as your brand and your core values, and accepting that, okay, and we use Top Slice as an example, our specialty pizza is a $4.50 or a $5 slice. There might be another place down the block that has a $3 specialty slice, but I know what our core values are in the brand and what we put on the table, and we make sure as a business that number makes sense. And you just understand that that's your place in the market. Yeah,
and it's not going to an unreasonable side of things. And the burger spot you guys have is
Black Cattle Burgers.
Steel. Black Cattle is amazing as well. I remember having the smash burgers there, and you're describing, where the meat's getting sourced in Florida and all the different stuff. Like we said, there's the quality of ingredients. One of the things seem to get overlooked at times, where the appreciation of it. And meeting and hanging out with some of those things, like I feel so much more into it that it's like annoying, because I'll like see what some place is using, and I'm just like, oh, this is probably not going to be as good, and it's like jading what I'm looking at already.
Yeah, and for us as a brand, that's great, right? For us as a company, that's what we want. We want people to understand our brand and understand our values, but also if you like a Big Mac and you want to go to McDonald's, then like a Big Mac and go to McDonald's. And that's perfectly fine, because there's a huge market for that,
Absolutely.
So, all right, while we were working on it, we rested the chops, we got the puree, I got some mushrooms, we caramelized them in kind of all that nice buttery lamb juice and fat, and they what's great about mushrooms, when you caramelize them in a pan, they really absorb all of that, right? So they kind of take in all that flavor. So we're just gonna season them a little bit, and again, we're using some nice coarse sea salt. get your vitamins in now, right? Get your magnesium and everything in. Season those a little bit. I'm gonna grab, maybe. I'm gonna grab a little demi that we make, and all it is you take your stock or your broth, and as long as it was made with real bones, eventually it gets nice and it gets thick, right? And we just reduce that until it's almost just like, it's just the natural gelatin and a good, stock. We reduce that, and this is bringing a lot of flavor. So there's a lot of shallots and garlic and thyme and all sorts of good things in there. So just let that hit the pan. Let that warm up a little bit. Those mushrooms really absorb that.
Do you do a lot of cooking at home?
I do, but getting into food, I was a rather large boy growing up, and getting into food was because I love to eat, and I found out that people would pay me to eat sometimes, and make food. So we're going to deglaze this really nice sherry vinegar, right? Just a little bit. Just deglaze that for some acidity. We've got a lot of fat and a lot of flavor going on, so need a little acidity to kind of round it all out. Take those mushrooms in the pan. Pull them to one side here. Boom. Right. Now we can talk about plating. But yeah, so at home, we run a meal prep kind of house. So it's simple, we do a lot of just roasted chicken and things like that. At home, when I do get time away, typically wife likes a date night. So we do like to go out in the South Tampa area where we live when we get a chance to spend a few hours away from the children. But for me, it's more comfort food and just kind of stews and things like that. A lot of chicken and rice at the house.
Do the kids have like a daddy's specialty?
Well, my daughter is only 4, so she loves chocolate chip pancakes. And luckily, even my 17-year-old son, that's in his wheelhouse as well. So normally for us, Monday mornings is a chocolate chip pancake morning.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. Clean the spoon here quick.
In South Tampa, are you guys exploring, or is it like we have our spots?
I tell you, I'm not a guy who raves about much of anything, but if I'm raving about a restaurant, Tarragacha. I ate there last night for dinner, actually, and they just do a great job. Brazilian steakhouse, the service is amazing, and when we talk about hospitality, most people, it's the innate thing you don't think about. When you go to a restaurant, you're thinking about the drinks, you're thinking about the food, but the thing that really makes you go back over and over and over is service, right? And the way you feel about always being taken care of, and they do an amazing job. On top of having great food, great drinks, amazing service. So
being, from looking at, I don't think it's just a Tampa Bay thing. I think it's it's a Florida thing around the hospitality service climate, where the amount of turnover obviously that we have, which is in existence everywhere, but and you guys have put out some feelers for other levels of chef support and this and that in the kitchen.
Sure.
And you said that was nationwide?
Yeah. We've been doing some searching nationwide, and hopefully we get to make some big announcements soon, but we actually were able to make an offer to bring in some more chefs, and really where we're at and what we talk about internally all the time is we're just in a point in our business where we're acquiring talent. Any way we can, we want to bring in people with experience, people with the hunger to really get in and provide that hospitality and great service and great food.
Do you find that's mostly, not most of it, they typically start with the back of the house? And at one point, does it all right, we really want to button up this front of house side of things? Because I think we all run into it where it's you go into a restaurant and it's is it everybody's first day today? I
mean, there's so many things in a restaurant that can really allude to that and build that pressure, and things go wrong. For us, and it's kind of danged if you do and danged if you don't, but we've gone relatively high tech, with our operating system that helps us expedite the restaurant and do things. I'm just going to kind of lay these right here off so you can still see the chop and you can get in there. Okay. Obviously, you're going to...
Like a very Bob Ross explanation. You're going to lay these down.
You're going to go in and grab the bone, but some folks might want to go fork and knife right there on the eye of the meat, so they get a chance to do that. And we're also going to take a few things and have some fun with the garnish a little bit. We got a few options.
So what is the garnishes? What do we have here? There's a lot of pretty colors, and this is what I'm very excited about. What is it?
Yeah, so this is, when we talk about inherent flavors and techniques, so this is a very traditional, it's called norikomi furikake. So furikake is typically a seasoning blend with different ingredients, usually based around nori. So norikomi, it's kind of a sweet, salty sesame and nori seasoning. So it's very intense, so we'll just sprinkle a little bit of that on the end. We've got some pickled mustard seed, which goes really well. A lot of folks.
Did you guys make this? Or this is
No, we make this. It's pretty easy. You can add some jam into it. Now you've got a mostarda. There's different ways you can go about it. But for us, we just take a really nice, clean mustard seed, and what you do is you blanch it a couple times. So we just boil it in water 2 or 3 times. And that just gets out the real aggressive kind of funk that can be in the mustard seed. Once we do that, then we take our sushi zu, which is our seasoning blend for our sushi rice, which is sugar, vinegar, salt. And we simmer that in there and really just get a nice flavor, nice kind of sweet, salty, sour combo.
I'm sold.
After that, so we'll just go fresh chive on the mushrooms, just kind of finish that off. Sort of fresh onion garlic flavor, a bit of that norikomi.
Very little.
Yeah, very little. You don't need too much. Don't want to overpower the flavor of the lamb. When we talk about simplicity, and then the restaurant, these are local Meredith Family Farms. They do a great job. Awesome. We get deliveries from them every week, and they do flowers and microgreens and all sorts of things.
We have so many little urban farms.
Yeah.
That I have a post actually going out in about a week, because I've gone to 4 or 5 of them in the last month or 2, and I was like, I'm sure there are more than the ones that I've gone to, and it's just like, wow, there's like a dozen more. And I love that some of them are hosting. I know with that I think will have happened by the time this airs, but Meacham Farms here up in Tampa, just outside of downtown, is having a whole beautiful farmer table dinner. And it's like, some of them are managed by, I know they are a business, but then some of them have like their own little buckets where you as a chef can be like, okay, this is my bucket of stuff that we're managing a little bit and still helping maintain it, which is just so cool. And I want to show those off so much more, because I think, again, quality of the ingredients, where you've got places, people investing that much energy from their restaurant to then go have their little stall at a farm someplace.
Yeah, and as a small business, as we are, this trying to kind of have fun and operate, and then you find local families who, they want to take something they're passionate about and make that career and make that their business and their life, and speaking of Meredith Family Farms, it is a husband, wife, and son. The wife manages the farm, the husband does most of the sales repping and account management, and then every Friday the son is doing the deliveries. So
and is it only for
really as a family?
It's like only wholesale?
As far as I know, right now they focus on wholesale, and they have quite a few big accounts. We're ordering quite a bit from them, from microgreens. The great part with them is they customize things. If you like long stem, short stem, big flowers, little flowers, they kind of manage custom orders. But I can certainly kind of check with Robert and see if they plan on branching out.
Eat this as
it's great.
This is freaking crazy delicious.
They need furikake flavored potato chips. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, they do. And you made this one, right? That's not like I can go to any store.
Yeah, it is simple. For us, it's salt, it's sugar, and a little bit of sesame and nori. So it's super simple, super easy, but plenty of local Asian marts do sell that. Usually you'll see it counted as like poke or sushi toppers, and they come in little shaker bottles. It's nice. Okay.
On to the most delicious component, is when we get to now eat this, and I will use a fork and knife. So is this on the menu at Fortu right now, or is this just a little random creation?
A little bit of both. Right now, we have a variation available right now. We're doing it with calabaza squash and the lamb chops, and then a little charred gailan. So it is a variation of what we're doing now.
Very nice. Oh, man. I know you can't smell this through the camera, but it's just so delicious. I can't wait. Good. There's that curry noodle in there.
Yeah, just a little spice, gives it some intensity, you know. Even folks that don't care for lamb chops or duck, or like we were talking about earlier, add a little curry and add some spice, and it kind of helps pair well so you don't get as much of that, you know, what they call gaminess of the meat.
Oh my goodness. Man, I wish you can, I hope you try this at home. And we're also going to hang out and try a little bit of our buddies who hooked us up, sponsoring the show a little bit, little Flora Days. They've just released. It's a little, it's got a little bit of THC in it, some CBD and some other
It's really
good things. But apparently, we were just chatting that since alcohol consumption is down an astonishing percentage. I'll let you.
Yeah. No, I was
down.
reading about it, and they're saying based on the amount of alcohol consumption and the amount of people consuming, they're putting some hundreds of percent, even up to 800% less alcohol consumed by 25-year-olds versus, you know, what would be now 35-year-olds 10 years ago.
I have a number of friends who had, you know, they would drink beer at home, and they would just drink at home more regularly.
Yeah.
And they're like, I started drinking stuff like this, and it's like, I'm getting a little chilled out, but I'm down 20 pounds.
Yeah, that's the health conscious piece. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, 0 calories and you know, only 5 milligrams is great. You know, compared to, you know, I don't know, you drink 10 beers and now you're at 200, 300, or even if you're drinking, you know, heavier beers, into the thousands of calories.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And I was at a brewery, and the brewer was telling me that he was telling me how down the consumption was, and then also telling me that he's even stopped drinking and he's just drinking these drinks. I was like, I can totally appreciate the health conscious side of it, but it's like, and they too are actually now making these types of products, but it is really interesting. I just, you know, you keep hearing the way the numbers are going. And you said some large percentage of distilleries, right, are having.
Yeah, they're having, you know, sales volume and huge issues, and as things are getting bought up, and you know, so financial world, which outside of my operations, I don't dive into much, but it's tough. And you know, 10 years ago, I didn't have a calorie app in my phone telling me that you know, on a Friday night, I'm about to overconsume my calories, and everyone's so health conscious now that's important, you know. So
from the business side, I didn't realize it. I was in Montreal a couple weeks ago, and with the way that imports, exports, and stuff has happened there, like, they're not importing any whiskey from here, and now they're like, well, it's helped our distilleries, but it's also, they're like, it's not really a solution because they're all so small. The price, production, and all of it's like,
no,
making everything a little bit wonky. But I was like, oh, the drinks you're still making are still, I think, the same reasonable price points. I'm sure their cost probably went up on it, but they're still awesome. It's like, whatever the, you know, supply chain size of things are, you get to support a little bit more local, which I think people, at least that's the selling point. A lot of places, and you know, people will run with locally. Get like, oh, we're local, we're made local, which I can appreciate. But it's like we have to have more of a sales pitch than, you know, we've got to.
Still has to be good.
It still has to be good. Man, good, man.
Yeah, and that's a big piece. You know, even at Fortu and the restaurants is, you know, we want to support local and as much as possible, but does the price match, right? Is it something I can provide that makes sense in the matrix of our price plan to ensure that it's a price point for a dish that a customer wants, right? You know, and also the availability of it, right? Because as you mentioned, small batch, local, small farms, sometimes it's a great idea, but if I need to sell, you know, if I need to sell 1,000 of them a week, can I get that 1,000 times? That's also
that's how they get next week.
Yeah.
Like that's, 100%. So just as we kind of enjoy the rest of our little food here, not wrapping up, but concluding slowly, but you and I chatted last year after the Michelin was, the recommendation was received, that there was the pursuit of the star side of things. And I know as the businesses continue to change over the time that's happened, is that a consideration that you're making when you guys are making decisions? Like, how does this choice in whatever it is, whether it's operationally, food, staff, how does it affect that? Or is that kind of like, not secondary? I mean, it's this goal, then is it also this?
Not even saying it's always in the back of our mind. It's always right there, burned into the front of our brain. It's something that, as every restaurateur or chef can tell you growing up in the business, it's always a goal. It's always a personal thing that somebody wants to be a part of, and being able to go to the Michelin event in Orlando last year and just seeing, obviously everyone's just happy, right? Everyone was ecstatic to be there because you knew that you were a part of it once you were there. And to be included and be involved is great. But it has to make sense for each location, each brand as we're developing that, because we're still in developmental phase, right? Even only having Fortu for 2.5 years, Isu's only been open for 5 months, we're still developing. We're still building the brand, and it has to make sense. But is it obviously a lofty goal that's kind of ingrained in everything we do? It certainly is, And I think it's good for everybody. It sets a certain level of expectation of quality, be it for their expectation of service or decor or food. It's huge, but also it has to make sense for the place and the people.
So when you're, let's say, going through something like this, is there like are we checking all of the boxes from a Michelin quality dish, and does every dish, do you guys feel like have to level up or meet a specific expectation? What's that kind of quality?
Yeah, it definitely is part of the menu development as we're looking to add, replace, or change. They're delicious. Yeah, these are awesome. Establishing a level of expectation is great, and I think it's a huge part about having Michelin in the area. It's also the mystery about it, right? They kind of tell you some excerpts of what they want, but we don't really know the details and the fine details behind it, which, the mystery in that is always intriguing. But it certainly is a part of what we're doing and when we're making decisions.
Do you find that, and I think there's when it's recommended and star and multiple stars and all the things where sometimes, and I think it goes to the meeting the customers at their culinary level side of things, where I don't want to say the downside of it, but I do see sometimes when people all right, I'm going to a place with a star, they've now created this whole thing in their head. And I think it really plays into obviously the expectations are created, but they're just like, you can tell by the way they're talking about it, like every bite that I take better be fucking amazing.
Yeah, and I've had a conversation. I have a friend that is a chef and owner of a 2 Michelin star restaurant, and he said they opened it. It's 13, 15 seat tasting room, and when they opened, it was joy, it was beauty, it was all the things they wanted it to be. It's everything he wanted for his career and his life, and they're going along, and they got recommended before the ceremony, and then they obtained 2 stars, and the level of criticism that you meet from certain people make it that much more difficult. Now when everybody takes every single bite, they are deciding whether that's a 2 Michelin star bite or a recommended bite, or was my service to a standard that I now expect, where no one knows what that expectation is. Totally. It's a mystery to all of us.
Yeah.
So to have received an award, and the reasons why, obviously we can assume and make conjecture on a lot of the reasons why, but there's still a level of mystery to us. But adding that level of expectation from the customer definitely adds a challenge, but it also sets a benchmark for us to know what we can improve on. When we start getting that feedback, we have to look at it and say, is it real? Is it realistic? Was it a bad day? Did the internet go down and now our technology was not functioning properly for a portion of service, or how all of that affected that situation? And then once you see consistencies, that gives us an opportunity to improve.
Well, obviously, we're always trying to improve side. It's just I was hanging out with a friend, and she's like, oh, I want to be, on the guide, or I think she said she would, like to get a Michelin dot or guide or something. And I'm just like, making the decisions, which I think quite, reasonably is, we just want to do the best we can, and we want to create the best experience that we can, which there's no benchmarks like, okay, all of these things were checked off, we're going to get on the guide a star or whatever, to where when we're aspiring to have that level of quality just in general, and then the star or the guide comes, it sounds great. I think it's when it sounds like when the pursuit comes, and then it's like, all right, did we overextend ourselves to try to get there?
Sure.
And then now you've got a customer base that's like, all right, once that expectation doesn't get met, you're just a dumpster fire of like, one, do you lose it? Or the people are now ranting and raving, which, look, there's no shortage of crazy people ranting anyways on any post.
Right.
But is it worth the headache to a degree?
Sure.
And I'm sure it is, but it seems like an interesting balance.
It's definitely a balance, but I think that revolves around, any sort of development of a brand. When you look at clothing, you buy Under Armour shoes, and, I'm sure in the manufacturing world, they make mistakes, and one guy buys a pair of shoes and they break after a couple weeks, and now he hates Under Armour. And that's,
Okay.
My phrase, and it's kind of silly, might even be stupid, I just say people are going to people, right? And
Totally.
And in the event of operating a restaurant, your grill guy calls out, and when you have a huge portion of your menu is grilled, now you already have this hurdle that you're trying to get over, and then
the customers don't care about that at all.
Right. Well, but it's not their job to. It's not their responsibility.
Yeah.
And as a business and as a team of people, we have to overcome obstacles. And in our environment, it's every day.
Yeah.
Every day. An order gets shorted and the squash doesn't show up. And what do you do? And then, somebody gets sick. It's going to happen. Or they need time to take vacation, to spend with their family. And all of these things happen. A server doesn't feel well, but they're trying to push through the service and get through it, and make their wage, and all sorts of things can happen.
Yeah.
And it's what it is it's the consistency.
The amount of things that, and, the consumer side isn't seeing, where it's like the amount of things that have to go right for you to have the experience that you're expecting, it's insane.
For a big, busy, successful restaurant to be successful, you're relying on hundreds of people to show up every day, and those hundreds of people are relying on dozens of people to do a lot of things for that one plate of food or that one cocktail or that one event. So it's a difficult balancing act.
But that's remarkable.
That's when we talk about, and I mentioned just the term consistency, right? So when we have discrepancies or issues that start to become consistent, that's where we know we have an area of opportunity that we need to work on.
Nice. Well, last question before we wrap up here. So Terra Gaucha? Yeah.
Terra Gaucha.
Awesome spot. As far as anything new coming on for any of the concepts menus, is there anything that you're just like, I can't wait to release this? Is there something?
We're developing a lot. We're gonna build on our culinary team very soon. We've got some folks that we're excited about adding, and obviously they're gonna have a part in the development and these final pieces in developing our brand. And I can't quite drop details yet, but we're very close and potentially announcing even a new location for us.
Awesome.
So that's something to look forward to for sure.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining me on Sauced and Uncensored. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to continue to just snack on this one. I was not even paying attention to leave any for our folks behind the camera here. There's enough for him to try it though. But thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around, make sure to hit subscribe, and we'll see you later. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got our next episode right here. If you have any questions, just leave us a comment and don't forget to subscribe.